Hi everyone, today I'm going to talk about my predictions for the week of March 25th, 2019, and these are going to be based on astrological observations. First, let's quickly recap my predictions for the last week and see how many of them have come true, or at least get a general sense of how many of them were correct. So, as far as the predictions regarding the stock market movements, for the first 3 days of the week, the direction was incorrect. I did mention that I wasn't as sure of the direction of the first 4 days, Monday through Thursday, and that the one that I was really the most sure of was that Friday will be a down day, and that both Thursday and Friday of the prior week are going to be days with fairly strong market moves. And so for Thursday, Friday, indeed, we did see strong market moves. And Thursday and Friday directions were correct. Thursday was up, and Friday we had experienced a fairly strong drop, almost 2%, I think, for some of the indexes in the US. So let's see. And then other predictions had to do with, I guess, general sort of ongoing predictions of two kinds. One is just general problems, I guess, in the world with increased probability of attacks, like terrorist attacks or accidents, and earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, some tribulations that involve either government officials and or heads of corporations and things like that. And another sort of a parallel influence has to do with potential concerns about weather that involves too much wind and water flooding, as well as news that relate to oil industry, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, music, navy. It just involves shipments over the bodies of water, or communications that are international, I guess, overseas, etc. So regarding those, there were some news, obviously, quite a few about various tribulations. One that comes to mind is this the Viking Sky, I guess, cruise ship that experienced some troubles due to, again, high winds and high waves. And again, that's transportation overseas, etc. And there are also some news about this volcanic eruption of the volcano in Mexico. I'm trying to see what the name of it was. And there was fairly large eruption, as well as that the volcano in general has been, I guess, experiencing increased activity in general. And let's see, I guess I'm switching between the wrong. So, yeah, so the volcanic, what's the volcano name is, name of the volcano is Popocatépetl. And there were also two large earthquakes of 6.1 and one in Colombia, and then another one in Indonesia. Those were actually over the weekend, March 23rd, 24th. But again, I do expect that to actually increase this week through mid-April or so. And let's see, there were also some news about floods in Nebraska that have inundated military bases and have come very close to the nuclear power plant, Cooper Power Plant in Nebraska, that actually did not stop operating, but they were watching the waters very closely, and this influence that I'm expecting in terms of both the accidents specifically involving nuclear power plants or facilities that somehow have access to, I guess, nuclear either weapons or or power, as well as like major flooding or accidents involving, again, water, bodies of water. I expect that to kind of renew this strength again past April. We will have another period in June, around mid-June, early to mid-June, where this will be another kind of a spike of such activity, and that would be even stronger than this time. So I would keep an eye on anything that occurred at around this time, end of March through early to mid-April, and we may potentially experience a spike of activities in those same areas. And again, we're not actually quite through out of the woods for this period yet, but anything that occurs at this time, we may experience sort of a repeat with intensification around June. So as far as the tribulations at the kind of levels of government, there was fairly major news. Unexpected resignation of Nursultan Nazarbayev, president of Kazakhstan, after the 30 years of power. 78-year-old decided to resign. And there was also, I guess, some news that I just picked up as headlines. Orban's party, obviously it's Hungary, was suspended from European Parliament bloc over the ongoing feud with Brussels. Then there was also some trouble for ex-president Temer from Brazil, arrested in the anti-corruption probe. And again, government, we have Saturn, things like corruption, issues with like power plants, for example, especially nuclear power plants, or corruption, or any sort of hacking, or anything sort of underhanded activities, scandals of any sort as Pluto, and those two are currently getting closer and closer to each other in Capricorn, which again rules things like, again, minerals, metals, heads of government, corporations, as well as any sort of tall places such as mountains in general in the world. All of those are getting kind of pounded with this influence, so we'll hear more and more of such developments. And this particular next few days, we'll actually have that with conjunction with North Node, which usually indicates fame or kind of a infamous sort of situations where people fall from grace, fall from fame, or experience really shaming sort of stories, or something that affects a lot of people, such as again head of the nation resigning obviously affects the entire nation. So as far as again predictions for last week, another incident that occurred, I believe it was Tuesday last week. There was a news about Norsk hydro plant again in Norway had suffered a cyber attack that had crippled its production, and that particular, again, I've never heard of it before, but apparently that is a giant in Norway that's known for, not known for, but rather produces energy and aluminum, and again, energy and Pluto kind of represent that influence astrologically. And similarly, aluminum or any really metals production has to do with Saturn, and those things are combining. And again, Pluto also rules things like terrorist attacks, again, any sort of manipulation, or again, nuclear power, something that is super duper powerful, but it affects things in a kind of this unseen, crippling manner. That again, a cyber attack would be crippling, but also unseen because you're not sure where exactly it's coming from, or it's this hidden manipulative means. So what I'm saying is that, again, to stay on the lookout for events like that, to kind of increase both at the end of March and in early to mid-April, as well as kind of repeat of these events in June, and I believe there's going to be another follow-up in September of 2019. So let's see, there was an attack by a Senegalese man in Italy, tried to light up a bus full of school children on fire. So again, that's not minor, obviously, it's a big incident, but that is again sort of a preview, I think, of possibly worse attacks to come still in the next couple of weeks. As far as other news that relate again to chemicals or oil, as well as kind of pollution of water, that again was my prediction for last week. There is this ongoing, I don't think they have fixed it yet. There was this, basically in Texas, a power plant at petrochemical plant at the Deer Park, Texas, and all last week I believe they were trying to put out the fire there of some cancerogenic chemicals, and unfortunately residents there had to shelter in place, which means they basically couldn't step outside. They had to shut off all the vents, and the testing has been revealing some pollution in the local, I guess, bodies of water. So that is something that, again, that is a typical sort of representation of this kind of these two influences combined, the influence that causes maybe some pollution of water or some problems related to water, but also the ongoing problems that relate to like this big sort of power plant or large scale production facility potentially being affected by some major problem that is not easily solvable, just like radiation problem is not, you can't easily solve, and it's invisible, and it kind of permeates large vast land. So let's see, and then there was also prediction about kind of increased focus on the healthcare and potentially also athletes and or military sort of leaders. I did not hear, at least I did not see anything in the news, again without really trying to look super hard. I did not see any issues related to that. I guess there was some news about the Bayer who had purchased Roundup experiencing some problems. I believe their stock went down due to obviously Roundup being found to have some potentially causing cancer. So I saw that, but as far as the actual leaders, like military and or sports leaders or athletes falling sick, I didn't really see that. I'm sure somebody somewhere had, but nothing that would be like this global, scale, except I saw that there was news about Mike Trout, I believe, a baseball player that is about to, or was about to sign, at least last week, he was about to sign the largest contract in US history for $432 million. And again, that actually was not a negative news. I suppose this was a positive news for him. So there was this big news about a famous athlete, but it was not really necessarily related to this person suffering from, like say an accident, but rather from the person standing out because of some unusual, I guess, contract, something special about them that relates more to their achievement rather than being sick. So let's see. So that was just a local influence, or not local, but rather influence that was limited to that week. But the ongoing influences that we will continue experiencing this week, the week of March 25th, are that same influence that I mentioned that relates to water, chemicals, oil, that will continue. And anything that happens, like I said, last week and this week, I would expect some repetition of it potentially in June and even in September of 2019. So the same areas, for example, there are 2 incidents in Norway, or things related to, say, ships, right? We had this cruise ship, things of that nature. I would expect that similar types of events or similar locations may be again involved in June and September. And another influence that again rolls over into this week, and again will repeat later this year, especially in June, is where we can expect large earthquakes, potentially large, scale terrorist attacks or accidents that may involve power plants, especially nuclear power plants, or sort of government reshuffling where heads of states leave, or are eliminated, or there's some sort of corporate restructuring that large corporations, they decide to purchase other corporations, or they split or something along those lines. So those will stay, and this week the strongest influence of that nature, as far as especially the accidents of some sort or a large earthquake, is on Friday, especially in the morning, early morning, between midnight and around 9:30 a.m. New York time. And as far as the exact dates, March 25th, 29th, so I guess the entire week is affected, and then subsequently April 2nd through 6th, and then April 9th through 12th. And let's see. An ongoing prediction is again about Ruth Bader Ginsburg potentially leaving May-June, or at least experiencing another sort of a really difficult kind of time in her life that may affect her health, or just being very busy at work, or potentially needing to take a break, if not leave. And similarly in the US, March 11th through April 7th, standing prediction of continuing sort of important announcements or events that relate to communication and transportation industries, as well as young people, including potentially their education or transportation or social media, including social media celebrities or social media platforms that especially cater to young people, or things that are like, again, electric cars, something that's cool and hip. So there may be either some restructuring, and we have had some announcements, I guess, about the Model Y and Tesla, but or the prior week, I guess the week before last, we had some issues where Facebook and Instagram experienced a large outage. So continuing kind of news along those lines. And the more we get into April, the more there's a possibility of those news. And again, I guess Boeing also, investigation of Boeing, of course, how can we forget? Those news may involve kind of more and more unraveling, potentially kind of revelations about some either underhanded behavior, manipulations, cheating, or some scandal that may be related to that. Again, could be investigation into Boeing, how it was sort of approved, whether or not certain safety features should be included by default rather than as an option. But again, it could be more than just one company. It could be just multiple kind of lines of news, so to speak. But again, communication and transportation companies or individuals that relate to those are those who are prominently featured in the news, like maybe they're hosting, a news show of some sort, or they're, social media celebrities. Those folks may be featured kind of more than usual. And that's through early April for US. So let's get now to the predictions for this coming week. For market, I predict that Monday will be a fairly potentially strong down move, 60 to 65% probability. And for the US, the first 3 days of the week, Monday through Wednesday, especially Monday and Tuesday, there may be increased concerns about either safety, homeland security, bank assets, real estate, food farming. Again, is it some sort of safety of food potentially, or flooding or fires that affect farmlands, protections or healthcare, or kind of security of women and children especially, or somebody who is needy. So there may be concerns, is the government doing enough to kind of protect people, because maybe food sources jeopardized, especially something that women and children may be eating, or is enough being done kind of to help provide social services to those who need them, as well as there may be concerns about things like taxes, investments, and insurance. And again, maybe it has to do with like healthcare insurance. So for example, are healthcare insurance, companies doing their best, or are they interfering with maybe healthcare providers providing services, especially for the needy and or women and children? So those kind of questions may be brought up, and there may be anger or arguments over those issues. And like I said, there may also be news about, say, fires that affect, the safety of some assets, like could be, real estate and or could be farmlands. And so therefore it affects, the safety of food or availability of certain crops and kind of food supply, and some farmland, may be affected. And there may also be greater than usual fluctuations in the price of gold and silver. And again, that's mostly from Monday, Tuesday of this week. On Tuesday, 60 to 65% of market going down again. Then on either Wednesday or Thursday, I believe that the market will change the direction. So most likely it will be from down to up. And I'm not sure if it's going to be Monday, Tuesday down and then Wednesday up, or Monday through Wednesday down and then Thursday to up. So probably one of those. And so again, Wednesday and or Thursday, about 55% chance of market going up, but I think there'll be either reversal in the direction, most likely, like I said, from down to up, or there may be some news about some major agreement reached, and potentially either the fact that the agreement is reached between, say, China and US, or some large corporations. That could be something that may potentially get reversed a couple of days later, or the reaching of that agreement may come as a reversal to some sort of previous decision. So some decision may be reversed, and that would be most likely on Thursday, Friday, so March 28th and 29th. And let's see. So then on the 29th, Friday, I think it will be very strong influence with, like I said, in the early morning, sort of pre-market open, there may be some really major news about either, again, agreement being reached. So, of course, early in the morning in New York could be middle of the day in another part of the world. Or at that time we may hear about some earthquake or some accident, and that may potentially affect the markets on Friday. But Friday looks like a very stressful day, so either Thursday night and or Friday morning can be extremely stressful. And Friday, most likely, I think 60 to 65% of the market will be going down. And like I said, there may be at the end of the week, so most likely Thursday, Friday, we may hear about either some sort of an agreement reached between nations, or some sort of large corporations, and or there may be some agreement reached that will involve chemicals, oils, pharmaceuticals, or drugs, or maybe there will be another sort of incident involving again hacking, which again may involve large-scale manufacture, or may involve again something, or agreement may involve, you know, somebody, not somebody, but rather company that is involved in producing either large-scale equipment or steel or any minerals, or is a mining company. So those are the areas that may be affected, and there most likely will be some sort of an agreement. But again, this could be either a new agreement reached, or it could be a reversal on a previous agreement. So either one is possible. However, at this time there may be a lot of confusion. So even if an agreement is reached, the details may be unclear. So there may be an announcement that, you know, an agreement is reached, but the actual details are not provided, or there may be a lot of omissions, a lot of holes in there. And even if agreement is presented as final, I would say that there's a good chance that it may be again either revised, or that there will be a lot of sort of details that once they're filled in, that the meaning kind of the agreement may change. And for those who are actually looking to sign any sort of agreement or purchase of some expensive item, I would definitely recommend this week and actually all the way into next week to kind of be triple checking the paperwork to make sure that all the details kind of are there, because there is a strong possibility that something has been omitted and is not what it seems. And the down influence that is on Friday is actually stronger globally, so it may be something that may be occurring in the world and you know, in Europe or in Asia somewhere, rather than in US. For US, actually things don't look as bad, so I'm thinking that this either governmental reshuffling or some incident potentially may be happening outside of the US, but obviously I don't know for sure. So let's see, and then just kind of give a glance ahead preview, even though the strongest influence I think will be in terms of like potential terrorist acts or accidents or attacks or reshuffling involving governmental leaders, you know, earthquakes and whatnot, will be really strong from end of March through mid-April or so. Unfortunately, this whole year will have this signature kind of on and off. So then, without really giving us much of a time to catch our breath, we will have another time of April 24th or 26th where that influence will be back on. And following that, May 3rd through the 10th, we'll also experience additional difficulties again along the same lines. And then, like I said, an even kind of a stronger, more dangerous period, in my opinion, is coming early through mid-June. So around mid-June 9th through 14th especially. So all of those times are, you know, we will most likely hear about kind of major changes in the world, and something that will be long-lasting and kind of affect the relationship between different countries and kind of even more maybe borders, and or physically, if there's a really large eruption of, say, a volcano, etc., it may affect, you know, the landscape of some large areas. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this was interesting and not too confusing. If you want to read some of this at your own leisure, feel free to visit me at tolstunka.com. That's a blog that I run. I have already posted my predictions there, so you can just go back there and read it for yourself and keep coming back and checking it as the week goes by. Hope to see you also next week. Okay, bye.